Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 10 of the MFFL Nation Show. I'm here today with a very special guest, Matt MacKenzie, someone who's very close to Cooper Flagg, someone who's trained Cooper Flagg for a very long time. Matt, how's it going, man?
It's going great. Thanks for having me. What's up, Mavs Nation? How you guys doing?
Well, we are very excited to have not just Cooper, but you in the Mavs realm now. I like the shirt that you got on. I love to see that you're repping MFFL Nation already. And just to really dive into it immediately, how was last night? What was it like in New York? What were the vibes like? And obviously, I think everyone had a good idea that Cooper was going to land in Dallas, but take me through the night.
Well, first off, there's a reason why we're doing this interview today instead of earlier in the week. We didn't want to jinx anything. We obviously were very hopeful that he would end up in a Mavericks uniform and that his name would be called number one, but we wanted to wait until after everything was formal before we got on and had this conversation. But to go back to your question, man, it was an amazing feeling, collection of emotions. You never really know how you're going to feel until you actually hear that name being called, and it really just kind of hit me, and I know it hit our entire circle, just in that, we're here and that this is really happening. So just an amazing feeling overall. Not only Cooper, but our entire circle and family of friends. We're really excited to have him in Dallas, and we'll be accompanying him a lot. So again, just really proud of him. He's really happy, and that's what matters most.
That's awesome to hear. And again, we're really excited for the future. It's been a hectic few months for Mavs fans, and to see that we have a really good future set up is, very cool to see. And I sort of just want to go through the timeline, obviously, of early development. What age exactly did you start training Coop?
So I started working with Cooper when he was 12 years old. He was in the 6th grade, and his mom had reached out to me and told me that she had 2 twin boys that were really into basketball. Obviously, they were tall. They were starting to have some success traveling not only in state but out of state, and that she felt like they needed somebody who could work with them on their skill development and push them outside of what she had already been able to do with them up to that point. So to answer your question, 12 years old, he was still just a young kid, and his twin brother Ace was actually quite a few inches taller than him at the time.
Okay, I got you. Were you the trainer in the video that's gone viral and Cooper wearing the Maverick shirt?
Yes. So that was actually at my old gym. It's a funny story. So I had a small gym in Bangor, Maine. It was just a half a court, and the other side of it was a weight room, and that's where Cooper and I started working together. And we had taken this video at the end of one of our training sessions back when he must have been in the 7th or 8th grade, and he was wearing that Maverick shirt. And when we found out that the Mavericks were going to have the number 1 overall pick, I happened to kind of scroll back through my archives, and I saw that video, and it just made me laugh. So I took a screenshot of him wearing that shirt from the video, and I sent it off to a couple of my friends. And one of the people that I sent it off to, he runs a social media platform called Big Time Hoops, and it's actually something similar to what you guys do, but just really kind of focuses on Maine basketball. And so obviously that photo went viral, and everybody picked it up, ESPN, Sports Center, and everybody. But it's really just a screenshot from a video I had on my phone, just because we thought it was kind of funny that I had a photo or video of him wearing that Mav shirt, and it kind of is coming full circle now.
That's some pretty big foreshadowing, if you quite say.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. And so, were you born and raised in Maine as well?
I was, yeah. I was born and raised in Maine, played college basketball for Huston University, and then I coached college basketball for 9 seasons while I was also teaching. But really, my passion was in player development. I had started a brand called Results Basketball, and with that, I was training a lot of high school players across the entire state, as well as running camps and clinics, traveling around New England to do that. And so by the time that I met Cooper, I had been running that business for quite a few years and developed a pretty solid reputation in our state for working with some of the best players around. And so, that's how his mom, Kelly, had heard of me through my work with some of the other local players that they were familiar with.
That's very cool to hear, man. And, I think a lot of the people that hear the name Cooper Flagg now, I think the generic person thinks of when he was at Montverde, when he was playing on the EYBL circuit, Duke, the Team USA training camps. But really, when was the first time was there a specific moment where you said, this kid is different than everyone else? Was there a time where it was, I know he went by the saying, and I believe he spoke about at the draft, where you need to find a new gym when you're the best player, essentially. Was there a time where you saw that he's just a tier above everyone else he competes with?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I've answered that question a few times. And every time that I talk about it, I think about different moments and just different instances where he's had these breakthroughs where you realize, okay, he is truly different. One time that I can recall, and I spoke about this recently with Kurt Goldsberry, when Cooper was a freshman at Nokomis High School in Newport. He was getting ready for his first preseason game, and there was a lot of hype surrounding this preseason game because Nokomis was going to be playing the top-ranked team or the favorite for the largest class in the state, South Portland. And South Portland had a player by the name of J.P. Estrella, who actually now plays at Tennessee. And there was naturally these people just making comparisons. Like, okay, we've got this Cooper Flagg kid coming into high school basketball. Everybody's talking about how good he is. But we have J.P. Estrella on the other side, who is highly touted. He's being recruited by all of these high major Division I programs. How is Cooper, the freshman, going to be able to stack up against this J.P. Estrella, who's 6'10", 6'11", junior? He's got a little more experience. And how can Cooper carry some of the teammates that he has from Newport, Maine, against the big city kids of South Portland? And so I'll never forget it. We traveled down to South Portland. They hosted the preseason tournament. And obviously, nobody in the gym thought that Nokomis had a chance to beat this team. And we had just come out of the pandemic, so the gym was supposed to only be sold out to half capacity, and we were all wearing masks. Somehow, some way, I don't know what it was, the security there wasn't so good, and the gym ended up being completely packed full of fans. And, we had the masks on, but we're doing our best to try to still breathe because it's hot in there. And the ball goes up, and Cooper just immediately, right from the first possession, starts to show the fans who he is and that he's now going to be the face of Maine high school basketball. Forget anybody else. Like, it's his time. And he's, just, again, over the course of the game, kind of just showing what he can do on both ends of the floor, whether it's scoring the ball, passing, rebounding, blocking shots. And one thing leads to another, and now we're in a dogfight, Nokomis against South Portland, and it's like the fourth quarter and tie game. And you're seeing players from Nokomis start to foul out. They're doing everything they can just to stay in this game, and they're playing physical. And you're seeing these kids foul out. So now they're going deep into their bench, and Cooper's out there, and he hasn't sat a single minute of the game. I think at that point, in regulation, he's got like 26, 27 points. Anyway, they end up going into overtime. In overtime, a couple things happen. One, Cooper ends up ripping through on the left baseline, driving against this J.P. Estrella, who is a very good player, and he dunks the ball on the other side of the rim, like right on top of him, okay? There's clips out there. You guys can look it up. But he goes and dunks right on top of him. And again, he's a 14-year-old kid. Like, you just don't see kids that age make those type of plays, especially on a guy who's 6'10", 6'11". So that was the one highlight play. But the second one was I believe it was the first overtime. I could be wrong on this, but it was either end of regulation, end of overtime, and turnover happens. Player for South Portland comes down to go and score the ball, like a fast break layup, which would have won them the game. And Cooper chases him down, and like LeBron, he pins the thing off the glass. And it was just this unbelievably remarkable play that still, sticks in my head. And everybody in the gym was just shaking their head. They're like, who is this guy? And what did he just do? Anyway, they end up winning the game. So he goes on. He has 32 points, like 12 rebounds, 7 block shots, six assists. Like, just unbelievable stat line. Nokomis a small town school beats the highest ranked team in the state, Cooper shows that he's obviously on a different planet than anybody else around. And that means, I don't mean any disrespect to JP and that team, but I think that was the first time that in our state of Maine, people really realized Cooper isn't just the best player in our state right now as a freshman. He could quite possibly, as a 14-year-old kid, be the best player who's ever played in our state. And that's a lot to say, considering he hadn't even played in an official varsity game yet.
That's quite the story. I'm not sure what's going on. For some reason, the audio is tripping out for a second. Perfect.
Better now?
Yeah, way better. Yeah, perfect. And I love that story because it really shows that he's just continued to impress people throughout the years. It wasn't just he stood out at Montverde or he stood out at Duke. It was really from his Maine days. And those are the stories that people around the country, around the world, don't have the opportunity to truly hear. So I think that's the most awesome part about it. And, fast forwarding to, I know this is a big jump, but really fast forwarding to the pre-draft prep. I know you were with him in California for that. What was it that you were essentially focusing on helping Cooper improve throughout the pre-draft process? Because like you said, you have been an assistant coach before, but you really like the player development route. What was it that you said, okay, Cooper's phenomenal at a lot of things he does, but these are the few things that we want to take the next step with when he arrives at the NBA?
So we kind of broke the pre-draft process up into two phases. The first phase of pre-draft was really focused on just prep for the combine, and then possibly any type of draft workouts that he was going to have to do. So from a physical standpoint, we were out in LA and he was doing a lot of work on his body. Obviously the first couple weeks were focused on just recovery, because he had just come off a very long season playing for Duke. And then from there, it was building his body back up. And so Cooper ended up shaving nearly 10% body fat in the time that we were together, which is just unbelievable. The owner of Proactive Sports Performance, Ryan Capretta, he said that it was one of the greatest turnarounds he had seen from a draft prospect in his time doing this. So,
and how long were you guys in California
for? So that's from start to finish. So that's from like Easter, which is when we went out there, Easter Day, to just a couple of weeks ago. But wow. When I talk about the two phases, like the first phase, it was really about getting dialed in and making sure that we got a good handle on his diet, making sure that we were really being strategic with how he was approaching his off the court workouts in the weight room, and focusing on like his mobility and his hip flexibility and all of that, in addition to his sleep and recovery. And that's not to say we weren't focused on what he was doing on the floor at that time, but we really just wanted to get his body in the right state and his mind in the right state so he could go through the rigors of this pre-draft process. And then after the combine, it was all about really just focusing on what's next to come, and that's the NBA. And so focusing on breaking down commonly seen actions in the NBA, and a lot of the training that I've done with him for years is all about making reads and decisions, and not just doing one-on-one skill work and reps. It's all about being a thinker, or somebody who can, be two steps ahead of everybody else on the floor. So we break down film, we set up small-sided games. I put him in different advantage situations where I'm requiring him to have to be challenged to make those decisions and hold those advantages and read not only his on-ball man, but rotating guys. So I'm blessed to have a really good staff of young coaches around me that I can put in situations to help mimic the game. And so we do that day in and day out, where a lot of his skill work comes through game action training and 3-on-3. And that's not to say he's not getting a ton of shot reps. It's not to say that we don't spend time breaking down footwork patterns and working on, detailed skill development with regard to his balance and things like that. But the majority of his training, and I think that it's reflective when you watch him play, it's really on how his development can impact the game and how it's going to transfer to him on the floor. Can he be 2 steps ahead of everybody else and not just be somebody who's looking to score one-on-one, but make players around him better? Making those right reads, I think it's just so important, and I think it's going to continue to benefit him as he goes into the NBA even more so. So that was the focus primarily through the pre-draft process. And now with technology and being able to use things like Synergy, watching film has been an incredible asset for not only me, but us. So yeah, I hope that kind of sums up your question there.
No, 1,000%. And I think, something that sticks out a lot of days is that, and for someone who played at the collegiate level competitively and everything like that, is that the difference between great trainers and the average trainer is that you're not just going through the simple repetitions that every single person wants to go to. It's the reads that you said. It's the kind of offensive schemes that you're going to be facing. It's not just, 8 spots. It's working on flares, working on pin downs and everything like that. And certain where there's multiple people on the floor and you have to find a way to get a shot off. So I think that's something that general fans don't really realize how important that is. So to hear that that's being done is really cool, because a lot of people have spoken about, especially in the pre-draft process, obviously the draft happened last night, or the first round, that Cooper Flagg is going to be an immediate impact player. And I think in order to be an immediate impact player, you have to do the kind of stuff that you just said you guys were doing together. So I think that's really cool to hear that it's not just focusing on the simplistics of the game, although that's important, but also breaking it down and knowing what it takes to actually compete in the NBA and make an impact immediately as a rookie. So that's really cool. We know Cooper Flagg loves to talk his smack on the court. Obviously, there's been some viral clips of the block at EYBL and him talking on the floor, the viral clip of him having some choice words with VJ Edgecombe, everything like that. Overall, how would you say Cooper handled the pressure of becoming the number 1 overall pick? And, people saying that Cooper Flagg is the best American prospect since LeBron James.
Yeah, he handles all of this incredibly well. He very rarely shows any type of emotion in terms of looking rattled or feeling rattled. And he does a great job, preparing so that way he's confident for these situations. He's really invested time in breathing and understanding, you need to make sure that you're getting enough sleep and all of those things, so that way he's not feeling anxious. He's not feeling tense. He's truly ready for every single moment. And I think up to this point, he's just done an unbelievable job kind of drowning out the noise and just focusing on what's most important. And that's being the best basketball player he can be. And you talk about him talking a little smack. That's just his competitive nature. It says a lot to his character, who he is as a person. Listen, it doesn't matter if you're playing basketball against Cooper or you're playing cornhole. He just wants to beat you because he's so competitive. And I think that's what Mavs fans and people in Dallas can look forward to. He's just a winner, man. He wants to come in there and he wants to win right away. And that's why I think this situation is so perfect for him, because he has that opportunity to go to a franchise that is ready to win. And he doesn't have to go to a complete rebuild where, he has to carry every single bit of the load. He gets to go play for a team that has other future Hall of Fame players and a really, really good head coach who I think can get a lot out of him. And he can develop at the rate that I think is appropriate for a rookie. And the thing about Coop is that he adapts to his environment really well. So he's going to get into Dallas and he's going to be able to pick up on things really quickly. And he'll be able to figure out pretty soon, exactly what that team needs of him. And he's going to maximize whatever they need him to do to the best of his abilities. He's going to do exactly what they need him to do and more. And, that role or those expectations could change over the course of the year as he gets more comfortable. But the cool thing about Coop is you can plug him into any situation and he's going to impact winning, and it's going to be on both ends. And he's just valuable in so many ways.
And I think, honestly, I mean, everyone knows how excited I am that Cooper Flagg is a Maverick. But one of the things that I'm most intrigued about, and you bring it up, you can put him into any kind of system, any kind of team, and he's going to fit in. It's that he's going to have the opportunity to really play so many different kinds of roles for this team. And you look at it with Kyrie most likely being out until the January, February time. Cooper's going to have the chance to play aside Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson still, and Derek Lively, and so many phenomenal basketball players where he's going to be able to learn from PJ Washington, who's a very solid defender. Shot blockers like Gafford and Lively and AD, like I said. And he's going to understand what it takes from, I believe, guys like Klay, AD, and Kyrie, what it means to be a number one or even a number two of a team, to where he can take that early on in his career. And once those guys do end up retiring, he knows what it takes, to truly, just be that number one role. And there's going to be so many opportunities for him. And like you said, he's playing for a phenomenal coach in Jason Kidd, someone who's known to be a great players coach, that Kyrie Irving has such a great relationship. Anthony Davis has such a great relationship with, won a championship with him as an assistant coach in Los Angeles, that I really think people don't understand the true value of what it means for Cooper coming to Dallas. Like you said, this is such a better situation than, don't want to call out any specific teams, but a team that isn't competing for the playoffs essentially. And for him to have this opportunity is very exciting to see. And it leads me to my next question. How do you really see Cooper fitting in with Kyrie and Anthony Davis once the team is healthy?
Well, that's a good question, and like I said before, I think that his expectation or his role could evolve over the course of the season. And I think that with Kyrie being out early on, I think that Cooper's probably going to have the responsibility and the keys to be able to be a facilitator, somebody who can get the ball right off the rim, push the ball out ahead, and run your offense. Somebody who, makes, like I said, great decisions, and he's going to spray the ball around and get it to where it needs to be. So I think that that's only going to continue to help him develop, because he's going to have the ball in his hands early on in the season and develop a comfort level distributing to some of those other guys. So by the time that Kyrie comes back into the mix, I think now you're going to have two unbelievable playmakers on the floor at the same time. And so it can be a situation where if he gets the ball off the rim, he can run the break. It doesn't have to immediately go to the point. He's more than capable of doing that, almost playing like a point forward role, if you will. That is how I would see him being most impactful. So I would fully expect that that's what J. Kidd will do.
Yeah, and even Cooper said last night in an interview that Jason Kidd is going to allow him to rock out, let him have the ball in his hands sometimes. And I think, you look at the NBA today with guys similar to Cooper's size, like a Jason Tatum, LeBron, guys that are able to really do it all offensively and score the ball on all three levels, facilitate the ball perfectly. And I think that's what Cooper brings. I think when the common fan is watching his highlights, they see the dunks, the blocks, and everything. But if you really study his game, you can truly see how phenomenal of a facilitator he is. And there will be opportunities for him, many opportunities for him, where he doesn't have to be playing the one or the two to really run the offense. And I think with how big of a team the Mavericks are, there's going to be times where I bet we see a lineup of, the point guard and then Coop, PJ, AD, Lively, or Gafford. And I think that's the most exciting thing, is the versatility on this team.
I think you're spot on. And I think that having somebody like Cooper, who some call the Swiss Army knife, like his versatility just is so valuable, and you can plug him into many different situations, many different lineups, combinations, and he's going to find a way to impact that the right way.
And I want to ask this question. It's been debated so much these past few months, and I don't know if you even have an answer for it, but what kind of, for someone who's been with Cooper throughout this whole journey and process, what kind of players would you personally compare his game to, or aspects of his game to, at least? Or I've heard people say there's no one like him.
Yeah. I've been asked that question a lot. And one thing that I'll say is I think Cooper is one of one. He's Cooper Flagg. He's not a direct comparison to anybody who is playing in the NBA today. However, I think that he takes bits and pieces of players that you can watch in today's game. And, I've been quoted saying certain things, and some have been taken out of context, but he has tenacity. He has that grit like KG. And he's somebody who's going to be just incredibly intense anytime that he steps on the floor. So he's got that grit. In terms of feel, right, he sees the floor incredibly well, and his ability to facilitate, he's like a point guard out there. And he plays hard every single possession. So like you watch Pascal Siakam, right, through this playoff run and see how hard Pascal plays, and his effort and just how hard he plays creates extra opportunities for his team. I think he takes bits and pieces of Pascal. He takes parts of Jason Tatum's game with regard to his versatility and his ability to score in different ways. So again, I can't compare him to one person in particular, but I know that the common easy name that everybody throws out there is Andrei Kirilenko. He's got more to offer, I think, than Kirilenko. And I think that his two-way versatility is just something that is going to make him really, really good in this league.
I'm very excited about the versatility. And I know you got a busy time coming up, so I just want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Are you excited to get to Dallas?
I'm so excited to get to Dallas. Flying out there tomorrow morning, first thing, and planning on being at the press conference. And our plan is to go to the Dallas WNBA game, the Wings game tomorrow against the Fever. And so we'll be there. We're hoping to try to link up with Paige. I think Coop's going to see Paige and do a little, maybe a jersey swap or something like that with her. So again, going to be in Dallas tomorrow. Really excited to meet all the fans and learn about the culture, meet the coaches, meet the front office, and really just start to get 2 feet on the ground there in Dallas and be a part of this Mavs organization. We're all really excited.
We're very excited as well. And, I know Maine is a big lobster state. Are you ready for the Texas barbecue?
For sure, man. I love barbecue. So love to get out there. You'll have to give me all the good food recommendations. I'm open to ideas. Between myself and then Kelly and Ralph Flagg, Cooper's parents, we're big foodies. Like wherever we go on the road, we're always trying to find the best restaurants. So really looking forward to learning about the hot spots in Dallas. So send them my way.
For sure, 1,000%. Matt, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out of the day to do this. I think Mavs fans are excited for all of Cooper's inner circle to be a part of the Mavericks family now. And it's pretty clear to say the future is really bright in Dallas.
It sure is. It sure is. A lot to be excited for in Dallas.
All righty, Matt. Well, thank you so much again for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you.